Okay, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to prepare for colouring, which basically means I'm going to remove this black line from this white background. Let me just show you on the right hand side here, we've got this up. Now your actual screen may look slightly different to mine, but don't worry, you should still have the basics here, and you should find your layer window, which I'm on at the moment, somewhere around here on your screen. Look for your layer window. We're going to use that in a bit. Okay, so I've got a picture, and if we just look in that layer window, we can see it says background here. I want to colour this in. However, if I try and colour it how it is, so if I was going to use the paint bucket here for colouring, when you actually look on your screen, you'll probably see that gradient tool. An important thing to know about Photoshop is that there's so many tools that often they hide them behind other tools. And if you ever see a little black triangle like this, see that one I'm pointing to there? That means if you left click on your mouse and hold, a little option bar pops up, and so your paint bucket's there. Now if I was going to try and colour this in now, I'm going to choose a colour at the bottom here, just to let you know. You have a foreground colour and a background colour. Basically, if you rub something out, when you rub out, you'll see the background colour. The foreground colour, this one at the top here, is what you'll actually colour with. So if you use a brush or you use the fill tool, this is the colour you'll get. And if you click on that, like I've just done now, double click, the colour picker pops up. So if I was to choose, for example, a blue colour, I can then try and fill sections of this. So I could fill that with it. The problem is you'll see that, we can see from there really, if I zoom in, it doesn't look very good, does it? We've got all these little white bits showing, and it goes to the edge of my black lines and leaves a very faint kind of little white, faint kind of lines at the outside of it. It's not good. I'm just going to undo that. Just to remind you, if you want to undo, you put your finger on the Control key, bottom left-hand corner of your keyboard, the Alt key, just to the right of it next to your spacebar, and press Z. And if you keep doing that, it'll undo. So that's not a very good way of colouring. There is a better way, and I'm going to show you that now. What you need to do, you need to, first of all, make sure you've cleaned your image up, and I'll show you that in a different tutorial. When that's done, you're going to go to Channels. Now, on your screen, you'll probably find that on your Layers window, it'll say Channels at the top, next to Layers. So just, like I said before, it'll be around about here on your screen. Look for Channels and click on it. And when you do click on it, it'll look like this. Please bear in mind, and I'm going to keep saying this because some people don't listen, your screen isn't going to look exactly like mine. But you should find the actual channels near the layers window. What I'm going to do then is put my finger on the Control key again, bottom left hand corner of your keyboard, and click on the green channels. Do that and everything gets selected. Can I just show you though? I'm just going to undo that. Some of you will accidentally click on something like this, and the screen will go a funny colour. What you've done is you've actually just turned off some of these channels. The channels are all the different colours we use. If you do that, just put your finger on the control, and you can just click and make sure the little eyes appear there. Okay, so let me just Control and D to deselect. So just share again, click your finger on Control, click on green, and it selects. And what it's done is it's selected all of the white area. We don't want the white area, we want the black area. So as I said already, we've got the white area selected. We need to flip that and actually select everything else. And to do that, we go Select and Inverse. Then we go over to our layer window, and we're going to need to make a new layer. And there's two ways you can do this. You can either go to Layer, New, Layer, and it will make a new layer. Or the quicker way is at the bottom of your layer window, you'll see this little icon that I'm clicking on at the moment. That creates a new layer. Click on that and it makes us a new layer. Okay, now all I need to do is first of all make sure I've got that new layer selected, and it should be already. You know it's selected because it has that blue bit highlighted on it. Go over to my fill bucket, which is here, paint bucket. I don't want to fill it with purple, so click on my colour there, change it to black, click OK, and then just fill. And it went a bit darker, but you're probably thinking not much has happened, but it has actually. I'll show you why. Can you see all these little dotted lines going around that? That means it's selected. Now, if you want to deselect something, you just press Control, and then with Control held down, press D, and it'll deselect. Okay, I don't need this bottom background layer anymore, so I can turn that off. And when I turn it off, what you see is a checkerboard effect, and that just means there's nothing there. And you will see the lines from my insect that I've drawn. I want to get this ready to colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a new layer. And again, there's two ways of doing it. I've already shown you that. Click on Create New Layer. And I'm going to left click and drag layer 2 there. Left click and drag just below layer 1. So what I've got is I've got this layer here, layer 1, which has got my line on. And just so I remember that, I'm going to go over to the name of layer 1. I'm actually over the name. See where I am? Double click. And that allows me to change the name. And I'm going to call it ink. I always do that because when you're doing complicated pictures, it's very easy to end up with lots and lots of layers, and if you don't name them and then something goes wrong or you want to change one bit, it can be quite hard to find them. Layer 2, I'm going to double click on that and call it white. With that done, go over to me fill tool, click on that colour picker there, choose white, and I'm going to fill the white layer with white. So there'll be some people watching this there now who look at this and go, so you've just spent 6 minutes taking the picture back to how it was before. But it's not, because remember, we've got ink layer and we've got white layer. If I make a new layer and put it in between them, this will become the first of our colour layers. And what I can do is I can go over here and I'm going to use the brush tool. Left click on the brush tool. And I can choose any colour I want. Let me just choose, I don't know, I'll choose green. Click on green. And with that selected, whoops, I already coloured a bit too soon. Control, Alt and Z to undo, remember. I can start colouring with layer 1 selected. And what it does is, it means that I'm underneath the line. And I can start colouring in. And that's basically how you do colouring. However, to make things easier for you, let me just Control, Alt and Z to undo that. If you've got a nice drawn, I sound like a bigot now, a nice drawn picture like I've got with a continuous line around the outside of it, there is a bit of a cheat you can do. If I click on my ink layer and go over here, again to my toolbar, on the left hand side, 4th tool down I do believe, yours will look like that, quick selection tool. But if I left click and hold that, I can choose the magic wand tool. The magic wand tool, if you click on something, it selects all of it. So I click outside of my insect. You'll see that I've selected all of the area outside the insect, and where the line is doesn't actually go inside there. If I go up here now and go select and inverse, it means that it's flipped that round. So if I go back onto my colour layer, always make sure that you're not colouring on your ink layer. Go click onto that layer now, choose my colour, and what you'll find is that I can colour quite easily inside my insect without too much bother. If, however, you don't have a continuous line around the outside, you can't do this, in which case you've got to zoom in and just do it by hand, which takes a bit longer, but let me just deselect that, Control and D. So if I was doing it by hand, I'd do it like this. But it's no big problem if you are doing it by hand and you go outside, because those lines, but you can always click on them, zoom in, choose your rubber tool, make it a bit smaller, and rub out the bits you don't want. And that basically is the top and tail of it. That's everything you need to know. Let me just go back in there and colour that in again. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how you actually colour. So there we go.